Ladies and gentlemen, dear audience, in this last presentation of the Unit 1, uh, Unit 1.3, I will give a practical example through the case study of local practice related to creation producers of medicinal and aromatic plants. I will give you analysis of analysis and real examples of local, regional, circular initiatives and a reflection of transferability to participants' own operations. So, through the Interreg IPA Adrian project BioFarm Clusters, the creation team realized the research of circular economy model implementation in creation biofarms, particularly in biofarms producing the aromatic and medicinal plants. Because of lack of official statistics, the creation biofarm clusters project team conducted field research on stratified sample of medicinal and aromatic plant producers. The research was conducted on stratified sample of creation producers of medicinal and aromatic plants, and the used methodology was in-depth interview combined with on-site due diligence. The number of observed biofarms was 17. Considering the market characteristics, there are three main groups of producers of aromatic and medicinal plants and plant-based ingredients, such as the big players, the medium one, and the small one. The big players, they are SMEs and agriculture cooperatives, etc. They are producing the plant-based ingredients such as essential oils, extracts, and they are selling it to pharmaceutical and cosmetic companies or their own production. They have their own production of their own branded products, mostly cosmetics. The medium one, for instance, are small family manufacturer, craftsmen, who are producing not just medicinal and aromatic plant raw material, but also the essential oils in nice domestic rustical packaging and sell it to the tourists, elderly, nature lovers, or some special target buyers and group of people with medical issues such as allergies, whatever. The small one producers who are producing the aromatic medicinal plants on small scale arable land, such as backyards, gardens, they're primary are producing for their own needs and they are selling some quantities to the medium or big players. According to the results of the research of creation BioFarm Clusters IPA Adrian project team, based on stratified sample of medicinal and aromatic plant producers, in this chart you can see the ratio between these three main groups of producers. The 29% of them are producing the medicinal and aromatic plants on the arable land of 25 hectares or more. The 12% are producing on the arable land of the 10 to 20 hectares. The 23% of them are producing the medical and aromatic plants on the arable land of 5 to 7 hectares. 18% of them on the area of 3 to 5 hectares, and 18% 18% of them on the 1 hectare or less. The most important export product of Croatian producers of medicinal and aromatic plants is dry herbs. For instance, aerial plant parts, primarily used for tea blends, then follows the essential oils and hydrolytes, and finally the products of higher added value such as cosmetics, soaps, tinctures, etc. On this chart you can see the share of different products of medicinal and aromatic plants within the overall medicinal and aromatic plant production and processing. So, dry herbs is represented with represents the 59% of overall production and export of Croatian products of medicinal and aromatic plants, which is too much. The products of higher values, such as distillation and production of essential oils, it's 20 is represented with 29%, and there is 12% of the products of higher added value, such as soaps, cosmetics, etc. Only 12% of them. Wrapping material for farm products used by producers of medicinal and aromatic plants. 24% of the producers, they are using the unpack, they are producing and deliver their products in unpacked bulk products. 41% of them are selling their products in biodegradable wrapping material. 12% of them in reusable wrapping material, and 23% in biodegradable and reusable wrapping material. So, according to this data, to this analytics, we could be satisfied considering the wrapping material. Definitely. Waste management, considering the waste management after processing into hydrolytes, macerates, etc., 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 35% of producers of medicinal and aromatic plants and processors at the same time of the medicinal and aromatic plants, they are composting the wastes after processing into the medicinal and aromatic plant material into hydrolytes and macerates. 35. Well, that's pretty good. 18% of them are using composting and landfilling, and 18% of them are using only landfilling of the waste after processing into hydrolytes, macerates, etc. So this is not good. We have to avoid any kind of the landfilling, and always we have to tend to compost them, because it's much better for the environment, and we can control the process of composting and to add some calcium carbonate or some other materials to neutralize the pH or acidity of the compost and to make it available for using. But the problem is that 29% of the producers did not answer the question about the waste management. That is the problem, this 29%. So we must tend to increase the share of composting at least on some 75 or 80%, definitely. What about the overall farm waste management? Farm waste separation and on-farm composting of organic waste. There are 47% of the producers who have farm waste separation and on-farm composting of organic waste. This is very good. It is not excellent. It is not some pinky situation, but it's good. But on the other hand, we have 24% of the farms without on-farm waste management protocol. So if we consider the previous slide, this 24% completely corresponds with the share of the farms with with the share of the farms who refused to answer the question about the wrapping material, etc., and about the waste management, the previous chart. 29% of them are doing separation of the farm waste only and disposal of the separated waste by the municipal company, which is also good. So we could be satisfied with the overall farm waste management, but we must decrease the number of farms without on-farm waste management protocol, definitely. The results of this research completely correspond with the results of Feliciano, published in 2022, considering the motivations and barrier, considering the implementation of sustainable agriculture practices, including circular economy, and confirm the results of Mewson at Alias from 2019 about adapted cycles in agriculture and established framework to assess resilience of the farming systems, respecting the key points and bioeconomy and circular concept. I kindly ask you to see again the unit 1.2. That means the biofarms by themselves are mostly integrated system of circular economy because every biofarm represents a system designed to minimize waste and maximize resource efficiency by utilizing biological resource sustainability. Thank you. I kindly ask you to see again the unit 1.2 and to compare our results with the results of Feliciano, published in the paper, the reference from 2022, and Mervson et alias in 2019. So our research completely confirms the results of these authors, and it is a case study. Thank you once again. Dear ladies and gentlemen, now we are going on part 2, doing business by important and some endangered aromatic and medicinal plant species, which could be the novel products for horticulture business at all. Let's start with the conclusions of the first presentation. The whole Mediterranean and mountain area of Croatia is rich of plant biodiversity and some autochthonic, relict and endemic plant horticultural and ornamental species. Some of them are described in previous presentation. Also, due to the global climate change, or precisely global warming, and also because of negative impact of different socio-economic factors on environment, these species are endangered in their natural habitats. All the conservation measures are of administrative and bureaucratic repressive character, based on the bans and penalties in case of collecting the endangered species or destroying their habitats, which is good, which is definitely good, but it is also not enough. Because the only way of conservation and remediation of these endangered horticulture and ornamental plants, and some which are even characterized as medicinal and aromatic plant species, is doing business. And that could consequently increase the conscience of all stakeholders about their importance and benefits for the local population and environment. How to make a doing business? I will try to give the answer in this presentation. However, before starting any business activity, the question is, who are the target buyers of the relict and endemic plants. There are 6 groups of the target buyers: the producers of medicinal and aromatic plants who needs the seedlines for their own production, tourists, visitors of the national parks and nature parks, households better, municipalities and cities. Why? Because all these plants, the biggest characteristics, physiological characteristics of all these plants is that they are xerophytes, which means they have a very small very low water requirements. And that's very, very important nowadays because of the strategic development goals and saving of the tap water. Then horticultural companies, national park administrations, and forest management companies. Why forest management companies? Because these plants live in phytoassociations or in phytosymbiosis with the other plant species, and they're creating the diversity of the species within the vegetation cover of every area. The second question is what kind of product they expect. They expect the seedlings or even developed young plants ready for transplanting, plus good story about each species they will buy. The example is the Genia velebitica I mentioned in last presentation. How to start the business? First, before starting doing business, we need marketing in the full sense of the word. Not just advertising, but also complete marketing, which means involving all stakeholders into the project. Plus lobbying. Why lobbying? I will explain you later. It is strictly related and connected with the legislation and some positive changes of legislation about protecting the environment and natural heritage. Then follows collecting of the plant materials for propagation. Then we can start the propagation, and then we have a selling. Let's talk something about the plant propagation. Basically, there are 2 ways of the plant propagations. The first one is generative, by seeds, and the second one is vegetative, including macro and micro propagation. Generative propagation is, evolutionary speaking, generative propagation is the most common propagation of all the plant species. But some plants produce a very small quantity of the seeds And germination of the seeds could be lower, and it is lower in the bad environmental conditions during the some years, particularly because of the drought or because of the very high humidity or attack of some plant diseases, fungi or pests, whatever. Macropropagation. It's a vegetative propagation. Some plant species naturally are adapted on macropropagation by rhizomas or stolones, by the above or underground plant vegetative parts. That's something which is overspread in horticulture, and there are books and books and books written on that theme. But let's us consider the advantages of the micropropagation. Actually, we have two ways of the micropropagation. One is cell culture, and another one is tissue culture, known as meristem method. Why? Because in using the tissue culture or meristem method, we have to cut off the primary meristems of the stem and to develop the protocols, callus, and from the meristems the new plant will arise or will be developed. The meristem method of micropropagation, or which is basically tissue culture, is very often in producing the virus-free plant material. For instance, in hop production, the AMV, apple mosaic virus, plus some variants can decrease the yield and the quality of the hop cones, and also the economical life of the hop garden, of the hop plants in the hop garden, might be shorter, or better is shorter. It is shorter. So, in the last century, in the 20th century, the meristem method was used in hops, and it starts by cutting the meristems, primary meristems from the stem. Why? Because the plant viruses are not translocated into the primary meristems, and from the explantans of the primary meristems, after 2 weeks, the callus is developed in the controlled conditions on the nutritive solution or nutritive media, and after 5 weeks we have completely developed callus with young plants, which are transplanted into climatic chambers, and after their hardening we have completely virus-free material. Normally, before starting the micropropagation process, we have to find the plants, and it is recommendable and necessary to find the plants which are virus-free, just in case. In spite of the fact that the virus the viruses are not translocating into the primary meristems. Let me speak about some plant species which are very good for the micropropagation. Last time, in my last presentation, I mentioned His Royal Majesty the King Helichrysum italicum, family of Asteraceae. The micropropagation of this plant species is very easy, and it was also developed at the beginning of this project. And here is the graded thesis of one student our student of Križevci University of Applied Sciences, who developed the protocol for micropropagation or for tissue culture of Helichrysum italicum. First, we have to find good, developed and healthy plants of Helichrysum italicum in their natural habitats. And we have to collect the plant material from them. That's the plant material, the cuttings of the Helichrysum italicum. And in laboratory, it is necessary to prepare the nutritive solution based on agar, which is polysaccharide. And after that, we have to make some cuts of the meristems and put it into a Petri dish. Then we have to put the Petri dishes with the plant materials, with the explantants of the meristems on agar in controlled conditions, in climatic chambers, chambers of artificial climate and lighting, on 22 degrees of Celsius, and we must have 16 hours of light and 8 hours of dark. And after 4 weeks, we have completely developed young plants. After hardening the natural environment, and then follows the hardening of to natural environment, and after that the plants are ready to be transplanted into the natural habitats or into our backyards, public areas, parks, whatever. Then follows Her Royal Majesty the Queen Degenia velebitica. That's a nice story about that plant. Degenia velebitica was discovered by the passionate Hungarian botanist Dr. Arpad von Degen. And it was described by him in 1934. In 1999, it was described detailed protocol about the micropropagation of Degenia velebitica. In 2005, the protocol of generative propagation was also described. But we don't have doing business, and we still have the Degenia velebitica on the red list of endangered endemic plant species. The second example is shy lady Micromeria croatica, family of Lamiaceae. In 2018, it was developed and published a protocol of Micromeria croatica micropropagation. In 2019, the study of generative propagation and involvement of remediation of Micromeria croatica in their natural habitats was also published. So everything is known. And etc., etc., etc. There are many plant species which are very grateful and very suitable for micropropagation, and it is necessary to provide a remediation of the plants. What is the biggest obstacle in doing business with relict and endemic aromatic and medicinal plants? It is bureaucracy. Unfortunately, it is bureaucracy. For instance, from 260 taxa of statutorily protected and strictly protected native originating plant species, this number decreased on 109 taxa only, according to the Natura 2000s. So, that's why the marketing and even lobbying are the first start point of doing business. We have to change that situation. We have to include all the stakeholders into that process to make the collection of plant parts of the relict plant species and endangered plant species and endemic plant species. We have to make the whole procedure, legal procedure, much simpler to simplify it in propagation aim, in the purpose of propagation. Otherwise, we will have only the bans instead of this, shop and save plants. That is the only right approach. And finally, if the frequency of the forest fires, not just in Croatia, but also in the neighborhood countries, for instance in Italy, Greece, in Albania, Montenegro, if the frequency of the forest fires will increase without actions of the propagation and transplanting of that plants into native habitats, the process of erosion will increase too, and we will have just karst in the Mediterranean region instead of nice Mediterranean vegetation. So, thank you for your attention, and you can ask your questions on my email address, or you can write to the info of this project. Thank you. Goodbye.